Hello, my dear children. Children, today we are going to read lesson number 7 of your history, New Ideas and Great Thinkers. In this chapter, we shall study about the new ideas and religions that emerged during the later Vedic period and thereafter. Here we will discuss the circumstances in which several new ideas and religions developed and flourished. Towards the end of later Vedic period, there was a strong reaction against the domination of the priests as well as the rituals and sacrifices. Hindu society was clearly divided into four varnas. The Brahmins, who were the priests and teachers, enjoyed certain amenities and benefits. They did not have to pay taxes to the king. They could not be punished for any offense committed by them. The rigid caste based division of society often led to conflicts among people of different caste. The Kshatriyas did not like the domination of Brahmins, who enjoyed many privileges. The Vaishyas were emerging as a prosperous group because of their trade contracts with the faraway lands, so they wanted a better position in the society. Shudras, on the other hand, felt ill treated by the other three Varnas, so they also wanted an end to their miseries. So, in addition, people felt it was very difficult to follow the Vedic religion. So, all the religion texts were also in Sanskrit language that was difficult to understand. So, the complex rituals and sacrifices were time consuming and expensive. Poor people were unable to afford dakshina or fees demanded by the Brahmins for performing sacrifices on their behalf. Moreover, the farmers strongly disliked the killing of cattle in Vedic sacrifices. So, the above all these circumstances were best suited for the origin and growth of new ideas, and under these circumstances, it gave birth to the two new great religions, Jainism and Buddhism. So, today in this chapter, we will read about new religions, about Buddhism and Jainism. So, children, the period of the 6th century BC witnessed various new developments in the political, economic, and social fields. The religious texts written during this age reflected the changing time. It was like the emergence of the ruling class and hereditary nature of kingship led to the rise of small kingdoms and republics, out of which emerged some of the first great empires of ancient India. And frequent wars between Mahajanpadas created environment of distrust and violence for the common people. They faced new materialistic challenges. They felt insecurity and searched for the peace of mind. Then next, this period saw the rise of big cities. Then population also increased, trade also flourished, and there was emergence of coinage system. The rural economy also developed. A number of people moved from one place to another quite often and brought their stories and views with them. Then next, the rigidity in Varna system made the Brahmins more powerful and the highest of all other Varnas. They were the only ones to explain the Vedic religion to the common people. The importance of sacrifice increased many fold. The rituals became very costly. The Shudras, the lowest Varna, had to lead a life of degradation. Many Vaishyas had become rich through trade, but their social position still remained low. So, all these factors resulted in the rise and growth of new ideas, new philosophies in the society. People, they want simple religion beliefs. They want such type of religion that they could understand and follow. So among all these circumstances, two new religions were found, Buddhism and Jainism. You know, we learn about new ideas from the Upanishads written by Brahmins and Buddhists and Jain religious texts which were written during this period. Now let's find out what Upanishads are. The word Upanishad is a combination of three words Upa, Ni, and Shad. Upa means near, Ni means down, and Shad means to sit. So, in this way, the Upanishad means to sit at the feet of the Guru or the teacher to receive his teaching. These are considered to be the part of later Vedic texts. They contain conversation between teachers and students. They have teachings of many religious teachers and saints. In fact, they are the more spiritual and philosophical in content than the Vedas. Most of the ideas are presented through simple dialects. Most historians hold that there are 108 Upanishads. Out of them, 11 are considered to be the main. Now, here in these Upanishads, the main focus in the text is on Brahma. Brahma means the universal spirit and the Atma, that is the individual self or soul. So the Atma or soul takes another birth after the death of a man. This cycle of birth and death continues, and the karma of man decides which new body he would get when he is reborn. In order to get rid of this cycle of birth and death, a man should seek salvation. Salvation means moksha. So, moksha meant union of Atma with Brahma. So, thus, many of the thinkers whose verses are contained in the Upanishads believed that ultimately both Atma and Brahma were one. Others wanted to know about life after death, while some of them wanted to know why sacrifices should be performed. Some of the earliest Upanishads were Brihadryanka and Chandogya Upanishads, while the Taittiriya and Aitareya were the two of the important ones composed around 400 BC. There were some women thinkers also who contributed their thoughts to the Upanishads, for example, Maitri and Gargi. It should also be noted that although the poor people usually could not participate in the intellectual discussions common in the scholarly circles of the times, a man named Satyakama Jabala, son of slave woman Jabali, acquired a respectable position in the society as a knowledgeable thinker. He was educated by a Brahman teacher named Gautama. So, children, one of the two new religions which took birth during that time was first it was Buddhism. Let's read about Buddhism. You know, Buddhism was the new religion founded by Gautam Buddha in 6th century BC. His original name was Siddhartha Gautama. He is thought to have been born in Lumbini in modern-day Nepal and raised in small kingdom of principality of Kapilvastu. His father, King Shushodhan, was the leader of Shakaya clan whose capital was Kapilvastu. It was later annexed by the growing kingdom of Kosala during the Buddha lifetime. His mother's name was Mahamaya, who was belonged to an aristocratic family. Shushodhana raised his son in luxury and in indulgence and sought to keep him attached to sensual pleasure to ensure that he should not leave the worldly life. As the sages has prophesied, Siddhartha married Yashodhara at the age of 16, who subsequently gave birth to their son Rahula. Throughout these early years of his life, Siddhartha knew nothing of the natural human sufferings that were taking place in the world. It is said that one day he persuaded his charioteer Channa to show him a nearby town. On the way to the town, he saw an old man, a sick man, and some people carrying a dead body to the cremation ground. Not having seen old age, sickness, and death before, he was naturally deeply shocked. In fact, he was so shocked that he did not find the palace life pleasurable. He left all the worldly pleasures and became an saint. He wanted to discover the truth of life for himself. He spent a long and exhausting period in searching for truth and took up the path of self mortification. While meditating under a peepal tree at Bodh Gaya in Bihar, he experienced the enlightenment. He attained the status of Buddhahood at the age of 35. He then went to Sarnath near Varanasi, where he preached his first sermon. He spent the rest of his life traveling on foot, going from place to place, teaching people till he passed away at Kushinagra at the age of 80. Buddha did not believe in the fruitless controversy regarding soul or Atma and God. In order to explain the existence, Buddha gave the Four Noble Truths. He said, worldly existence is full of misery and sorrow. This misery has a cause, and the cause of this misery and sorrow is desire. And misery and sorrow can be ended by killing the desire. So he said desire can be killed by following the eightfold path. The right path is the noble eightfold path, that is right understanding, right thought, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right meditation. Gautam Buddha suggested the middle path to his followers. He preached non-violence and truth, but he did not want his followers to denounce, material life to the extreme and lead the life of a hermit or saint. Instead, he suggested a code of conduct for all his followers. Thus, the central idea of Buddha's teaching was living a holy life based on high system of ethics without neglecting the worldly responsibility towards one's family. Gautam Buddha used other local languages like Pali and Magdi for discourses on religion. It brought the religion into direct contact with common masses. And the next religion is Jainism. The most famous thinker of the Jains, Vardhamana Mahavira, also spread his message around this time, that is 2500 years ago. He was a Kshatriya prince of Lichavis, a group that was part of Vaji Sangha. His father Siddhartha was an important ruler of Kshatriya clan and his mother was a Lichavi princess. He was married to Yashoda and also had a daughter Priyadarshana. At the age of 30, he left home and went to live in a forest. For 12 years, he led a hard and lonely life, at the end of which he became a Jina or conqueror at the age of 42. According to Jain tradition, he was the 24th Tirankara or Jina. Children, Jina means conqueror. So, he was the 24th Tirankara or Jina. He gave 5 main principles to his followers. And these 5 principles were: do not commit violence, do not acquire property, do not speak a lie, observe celibacy, do not steal. So, these were the 5 main principles. Now, Jainism mainly aims at the attainment of freedom from worldly bonds. No ritual is required for acquiring such liberation or freedom. Only the 3 jewels are going to help the followers. So, Lord Mahavira suggested the direction to guide his followers. The 3 features of the path suggested by Mahavira were called 3 jewels or 3 ratna, that are right knowledge, right faith, and right action. Jainism was essentially a non violent religion. According to Lord Mahavira, every object in this world has life, and in no circumstance any damage should be caused to anything. Vardhmana Mahavira died at the age of 72 at Pavapuri near Rajgriha in Magda. He also taught his followers in the local language Prakrit. So, this way, gradually Jainism spread to Orissa, Rajasthan, Gujarat, Tamil Nadu, and Karnataka. And one of the most famous temples are Dilwara temples at Mount Abu. The Jaina texts are called Purvas and they are further divided into Angas. Angas means sections and Upangas. Upangas means minor sections. Children, both the Buddhist and the Jain monks were organized into Sanghas. In Sanghas, there were certain rules that every monk and nun had to follow. The Buddhist text Vinaya Pitaka tells us that all bhikkhus and bhikkhunis, means monks and nuns, had to join the Sangha with the permission of their elders. They had to get up early and go to beg for alms. Alms means they have to go to beg for their food and everything in the village or in the town. Whatever was collected was shared by all of them. Small disputes or quarrels were also settled within the Sangha. Both the Buddhist and Jain monks were expected to dress in very simple way and they have to live a very disciplined life. Now, those who became the Buddhist or Jaina monks and nuns required to leave their homes and live in viharas or monasteries. These were initially the natural caves or some temporary shelters, but gradually permanent structures were built for this purpose. A large number of viharas are found in Maharashtra. Children, you know the largest Buddhist monastery in India is located at Tawang, Arunachal Pradesh. So, children, this is all about this chapter. Read this chapter thoroughly. Thank you.